it's Mike. I changed. Just kidding.
Wait.
It's not like
What?
Mike. What? No. Hi, it's Sir Ellen. I'm hosting the show now. I've taken over. We've been warning you, and I've now taken over, and I'm never giving it back. Just kidding. That's not true.
That's fine.
And with me, I have Mike and Kev, Steve. Hi, Steve.
You just have Kevin on the mind, huh?
Name. I know. Well, we'll get to that later. Mike, Steve, how are you doing? Mike, how's it going?
I'm good. This is like new territory for me, just to like sit back and not have to do the intro. This is kind of nice. I like this.
I know, and I completely botched it. So
you did great.
Definitely staying around.
Listen, if you go back, what was it, 7 years, 8 years to our first show, it was rough. We were like reading from a script, so you're fine.
I like it. Yeah. I like it. Steve, how are you doing?
Pretty good. Absolutely loving getting outside in this unseasonably warm weather. Like I felt hot when Roy and I went for a little bit longer of a walk today.
Because you are hot, Steve.
Well, thanks. Well, all right. Moving on, Ellen.
That's the direction we're going tonight, folks.
This is what happens when I don't host, okay? It goes off the rails.
It's a whole new side of Mike, and I love it.
Where's the mute button? Yeah, we did it was warm here yesterday, and we did a family bike ride, and we have a seat that goes between your hands, like between your arms, between your seat and the handlebars for the kiddo to sit in, and it was a lot of fun. You don't get the full extension of your legs, so it's like a little more challenging to ride, but it's a lot of fun to be out there all together, and it was just lovely. And I think later this week it is supposed to get a little chilly again, and so I'm not thrilled about that. But I felt like we did take advantage of the nice weather. Oh, and Liz has blisters from yard work. Well, Liz, I feel like you're jumping the gun a little bit there. We should delay the yard work for as long as possible, or you can come weed my flower beds because they look real bad. So
I'm really hoping that snowstorm that ripped through Real Salt Lake Stadium this weekend doesn't make its way all the way to us, because that just looks awful.
Yeah. I don't think it will, right? It has a lot of geography to get to before it gets to us. All right, well, let's dig right in here and talk about the team that we all know and love, which is the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. I guess you can't, for those watching, you can't see, but I'm sporting my Riverhounds sweatshirt that I enjoy wearing. So we had our last preseason game, which ended in a 1-0 win over Louisville. I did not read anything about it other than seeing the headline that was emailed to me. But that feels like a nice way to end the preseason. What do either of you have, or what reactions do you have to that?
I mean, it was a closed door kind of scrimmage, I guess we'll call it. It's so there weren't really any details other than, what was it, Danny scored. But it's good. Like, I think after we lost so badly to WVU, like you guys talked about last week, to see sort of a bounce back against Pitt, to see that our record is like decent against the other USL teams. And this is Louisville, who everyone always just expects Louisville to be at the top. The last preseason game before the season starts. So you'd expect us to be as close to season ready as we're going to be, and them as well. Like, no excuses. To go to, what is it, Lynn Family Stadium and come away with a 1-0 win makes me feel a little bit better about the season. It feels like something's starting to click into place, maybe. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, Steve, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I think for me, and talked about this a little bit with Josh and Liz last week, wanting to go in there, and I wasn't expecting to see much offensively, but to walk away with the shutout, I think that's great. Basically, replacing the starting center backs going into this season had me a little nervous. It still has me a little nervous, right? I mean, Pat Hogan, I think, is a good defender in this league. I think he's going to have a great season, but he was still the fourth most played center back last season, right? And dealt with some injuries, had some stuff going into the offseason injury-wise, so hopefully he's able to stay healthy. But having the shutout, I think that's great. That Lily Ball 1.0.
I have to comment real quick too. The USL put out last week, maybe, their list of like 10 keepers to watch, and they did not include Dick on that list. And I was like, how do you not? Like, literally Vidiello's on the list and Jamali Waite is on the list. I'm like, any keeper that comes out of a Lily system is one that's going to be on you. How do you not look at this guy who's bounced around MLS and is now with the Hounds and not consider him a top 10 keeper to watch just from the system alone? But we'll see.
So I didn't see that article at all, but I wonder, is it them just trying to hype up young, bedded players in the league, as opposed to a guy that has played a little in the league, played in MLS, and is a little bit older, and they're just like, they want to hype up the USL products because that's their market?
That's fair. I was going to say younger, maybe not, because Vidiello was on the list, but USL market, yes. Like, he's a USL guy, so I get that.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting observation, Mike, because at times I feel like maybe Bob gets more respect, or not respect, that's not, he gets more credit perhaps, that because at times I'm like, yeah, is he really the genius we all say he is? And sometimes I think it gets a little overblown. And then I think, as was talked about a few shows ago, when you have John over at USL Tactics being like, the Riverhounds are going to suck, and we're like, hold on, let's look at how we've been doing, right? Give us a chance. I feel like there's this swing back and forth, and maybe it is about promoting USL products and like USL keepers, but also I think there is this thing that, however it works, Bob Lilly knows what he's doing when it comes to keepers, and like, hey, maybe let's give a little credit where credit is due there. But I don't know. It feels, I like speculating and kind of thinking about it, but it also feels a little kind of, how close are we getting to like conspiracy theory land about coordinated? Steve, it looks like you have something you want to say.
No, I mean, I think just that, right? Bob knows how to identify a keeper that's going to do well in his system, and then go on to do well. I mean, I expect to see Waite perform exceptionally well this year. We've got Kyle Morton, we've got Vidiello in the company that he's in, of moving on from the Hounds and having good careers. So why would we think that it's going to be any different for him? I think Eric Dick is a bit different of a profile for us. I can't remember his first name, Gomez, who Vidiello took the job from halfway through the shortened COVID season. I mean, in the Lily era, is the only other keeper that Bob has brought in with significant playing time.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Well, we're already kind of alluding to it. We are starting the season this Saturday.
Woohoo!
It feels, I mean, I do think these preseason or the off season gets a little shorter, which I think we talked about, but it's here. And so what I did, because, of course, why wouldn't I do? But I thought it would be fun for everyone who is kind of associated with Mongols to participate in a little preseason prediction survey. And before we started recording, Mike, you were saying that Houndsy also did one, and theirs is like a whole different vibe from what we're doing. So we have two distinct approaches to preseason predictions.
Yeah, so this is a plug for Houndsy. This Wednesday, I don't know when it'll actually get released, but Steve, it sounds like you're going. Josh, Liz are going. I am now available, so I'm going to drive into Pittsburgh for this, but it's going to be a crossover Mongols Houndsy special. We'll be recording live from the pitch on Butler. I think there was 8 people that Yost sent out the email to from Houndsy. So like, it's just going to be straight chaos, but yeah, make sure that you go check out Houndsy's preview. Give them a listen, give them a subscribe as well. It's great to have more voices talk about hounds. Yeah,
totally. And it sounds like it's going to. You're right, Mike. It's going to be utter chaos. And what a better way to start the season than with Houndsy and Steel Army and Mongol podcast chaos. And I mean, that's the way to do it. So, because why not? We didn't.
Why not?
I mean, I was not here when we talked about the kit reveals. I love them. First of all. Second of all, I wanted more chaos. And so if we can't get chaos with our kit reveals, we're going to get chaos with our season predictions. So here we go.
I will say I wasn't here for the kit discussion either. I will keep my opinions to myself. I think the one thing that I am excited about is you guys talked about the potential for one-off kits or specialty kits. Mm-hmm. And we've been saying for years, it'd be great to have some partnership with a local artist for a good cause. And if this partnership with Charlie opens up the door for that, then like I'm fully on board. I think that would be fantastic. So yeah.
Okay. You can keep your negative opinions to yourself.
That's what I said. I'm just going to sit back and
Great.
Moving on.
Okay. So we are going to dive into these predictions, but before we get there, I wanted to do overall check-ins because I remember at the beginning of last season, Mike was the leading conductor of the sadness train.
Famously negative, yeah.
Yes, the famously negative. And maybe that's what we need, Mike. Like maybe it's your negativity. Yes, Liz, let's kick him off. And maybe it's your negativity that brought us such greatness last season. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I think before we dig into the predictions, because I have them all written down, we're going to get through them. What are your kind of general thoughts, overarching thoughts about how the season might play out and what maybe like one or two things you're looking forward to, and then we'll dive into the specific predictions. Steve, how are you feeling about the 2024 season?
Fine. I'm not. I don't know. So I think this off season, a number of players that I've gotten to know over the past few years leaving, and just some personalities that I really enjoyed talking to. I mean, even someone like Joe Farrell, who was only here for 1 year, but just like every time I talked to him was a great conversation. I don't know. It's just like, man, that has put a damper on it. It's made me a little less excited going into this season. I look at what we did last year and what I think we're going to do this year, and I don't think we're going to reach those heights. I didn't think we were going to do that well last year, but I was glad to see it. But I think that I feel fine. I mean, we'll get into the specific predictions, but one of the ones that I feel really good about is where we'll end up in the table, and I think we get the last seed for the home game.
All right.
That's fine,
Mike?
right? Like,
yeah, this is fine. It's all burning around us, but this is fine. All right. Mike, what do you think?
I think I too feel fine. Great
podcast.
Right? I know. No, listen,
that's a wrap.
I think I've stopped trying to anticipate what is going to happen. So I think one thing that the USL in general, just by its structure, doesn't do a good job of is it doesn't play the game outside the game. And what I mean by that is if you watch Premier League, you watch La Liga, you watch anything, as soon as the season's over, you start looking at who's coming in, who's doing what players are getting signed. So you have some idea of what the product on the field is going to look like by the time the season starts. By its structure, the USL isn't like that. So literally every season is a fresh start and you have no idea what you're going to get other than we know Bob. And so in previous years, I might have been like, yeah, this is the year we're going to do it. We retained more players this year than we have normally-ish. We've lost some big names, but that's happened before. And we always kind of make do. And so it just makes it really difficult for me to say, like, we're going to finish first or we're going to finish eighth. Like, I really don't know. I think what was interesting last year, and I think what I'm looking to see this year, is that Bob really seemed to focus on the chemistry in the locker room last year and in finding the right personalities. And I'm wondering if that isn't something that he tries to follow up on again this year, because the differences between like a 7 and an 8 player in the USL probably aren't that great. But if you find the right personality, that could be the edge. If the guys are all pulling for each other and you don't have, not to throw him under the bus, but like a Romeo Parks in the locker room, then like that makes everything better for everyone. And it makes it easier to get up when you're down, kind of thing. So I think that's what I'm looking for is we don't know a ton about these new players. It sounds like some of them at least have been in Pittsburgh for a little bit. Some of the guys went to school here. One of the guys went to school here. They're all getting some decent playing time together. Some of the more senior guys, which I feel weird saying senior, are putting down some roots here. So it will be interesting. I think I'm curious. This first game against New Mexico, and I'm not throwing any predictions out or anything like that. It's going to be tough because again, you go out playing West Coast, you're traveling west. Like, how much do we actually read into this game? So it's going to take 4 or 5 games for me to have any sense of what I'm hoping for this team. I think it'd be great. Obviously you get the player shield again. That'd be fantastic. But it just feels like I'm like in the middle of the lake and I'm not sure how we're going to get out. And like at some point, like maybe a speedboat will pull up. Maybe it'll be a pontoon boat. Maybe it'll be a jet ski. It'll be a lot of fun. I don't know. But like we'll have to figure out our way out of this lake. And Bob, this analogy is getting really weird.
I'm excited to see where you're going.
Bob, like the captain from Gilligan's Island. Like,
oh god,
yeah, it's okay. I'm just gonna stop.
Okay. Well, I think here's.
Can I go back to Liz's kick him off? Can we just do that? Should I just leave?
No. Oh man. Well, I think you both did great jobs at describing how you were feeling, and I appreciate that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to structure that a little bit more with some questions. And the great thing is what we are going to do is we're going to open up the Google form so that any listeners can participate. I will have it running until right before the game starts, and then I'll close it then. And so it'll be a fun thing that we can check in at the end of the season and see how well we did. One thing I will say, and in preparing for today's show, one of the things that I realized is that I gave no context. I did not provide the numbers for how we did last year to help give some insight and to gauge a little bit for how we're going to do this year. And so that's going to be really fun for us to talk to and go through that. So, okay. Why don't we just jump right in? The first set of questions we have are just some general overall questions about the season. And again, these are our predictions. This includes Mike, Kev, Josh, Liz, Steve, Justin, and myself. So the whole team came right in. All right. So our first question, in what place will the Riverhounds end the season, the 2024 season? And so I'll just give the answers that the three of us gave. And then if anyone else provided something super interesting or snarky, I see Mike had a snarky comment coming up.
Did I? I don't remember what I did at all. So
this is great. This is the best kind of show. Cool. Great. So in what place? So Kev and I both thought that we would end second. So as you know, last year we finished first in the East. We got, is it the Player Shield? Is that what it's called? Yes. Or is that the MLS? Okay.
Player Shield, yeah.
What do I know? Oh, MLS, it's Supporter Shield, right? Yes. Okay. No one knows anything. Okay. So Kev and I both thought that the Riverhounds would finish second. Liz thought third. Steve thought fourth place. And Mike, fifth place. Talk to us a little bit about that, Mike.
When did we do this survey?
3 weeks ago.
A week and a half. No, like a week and a half ago. Yesterday. Not long ago.
No, listen. I think look. I was negative, hopefully they weren't using my words as bulletin board material, but if they need more, then like great. 5th place, miss a home playoff spot. I don't know. Listen, we've locked down sort of a home playoff spot the past few years, and it hasn't necessarily served us great. So like, why not? And sort of looking at the other teams that are in the East, I don't know. I could see there being 4 teams that finish above us, but again, we're in the middle of the lake. I don't know. I'm just taking a shot.
We're sticking with the lake.
That's right.
Steve, you kind of already alluded to this, but you
Yeah.
think we're going to clinch that final
Yep.
home playoff spot?
Yep.
Do you think we're going to like eke in, or do you think it's going to be, hey, we're a solid 4th place?
Oh, I think that those places are generally coming down to like the last 2 weeks of the season, if not that last game, and sometimes things out of your control. I don't know. I as I think back over seasons, I feel like with absolutely no actual data to back this up, but I get the sense that more often than not, there's some gaps in the table, but those gaps tend to be not around, like, I think the key markers, like first place, oftentimes the home versus away playoffs, or getting into the playoffs, right? Sometimes you might be like, oh, which of these 2 teams is going to have the home game? Because the 3 teams that are also going to make it into the playoffs are nowhere close to that to get 4th place, right? So you might have a big drop off between 5th and 6th, but I don't know. I think those are spots where, when that's in sight, teams are going to be pushing for that and doing everything they can, and that adds to the competition. I'll say this is my response for the season, because I've got sushi riding on this, because my buddy Mark, he was like asking me for my crazy predictions, and I gave him a few, and I get 4 sushi bomb dinners if the Hounds are in 4th place or above at the end of the season. So,
oh man,
they better be in 4th place or above.
At least it's your buddy Mark. When you said that there was a sushi bet, I was thinking it was like you and Danny Griffin or something, and I was like, hold on, like if Danny's not thinking it's 4 above, like
any kind of betting.
if Danny Griffin like is the Hounds' leading scorer this year, I'll go buy him sushi bomb.
All right. I'm writing that down. Writing that down right now. Okay, so let's keep moving here. I don't mean to bring up this painful memory, and when Justin and I were talking about, I will say Justin was the very last person, and I had to pester him to fill out this survey because he was traveling and doing other things, and he said, I just blocked out all of last season. It ended too painfully. I don't even want to think about it. I'm like, okay, that's not helpful. Okay, so not to bring it up, how far are we going to make it in the playoffs? And as many of us will remember, we lost at home in the first game. It was a little painful. So let's see. Justin and I thought we would make it to the conference finals, so the semifinals. Mike thought we'd make it to the second round. Mike and Steve. Oh, and Liz thought semifinals. Mike and Steve thought we would make it to the second round. Kev thought the third round, which is the third round of semifinals. Seems like we had some like synergy. I think that's right. I think we had some synergy there. So it seems like everyone thinks we're going to make it a bit further than we did last year, which heaven help us. Hopefully that is the case. And that kind of brings in, at least for me, this idea of what the 2 of you were talking about. Like maybe it does take something different going into the playoffs for us to make it a bit further. I think, what was it, the first year that Bob, the first or second year, we were like middling, weren't we, into the playoffs, and then we did decently well. Are we even thinking about the playoffs, or is this just like, this is a prediction we just write down and we're not going to think about it? It's too far away.
I'm trying to think. I mean, we've made it to the second round twice under Bob. The one was the year we beat Birmingham in Birmingham and then hammered them in the first round 7-0 at home. I think that was 19, because was that the same year that put us into first, and that's why we had them at home? Yeah, because they were last.
Yeah.
right? The legend Mark Forrest,
Yes, the legend
right?
Mark Forrest. Yeah.
And so like there's that. I'm trying to remember what season was the other one. I feel like we're due to get out of the first round, even though I don't think it's going to be our strongest couple of teams.
All right.
It just seems like what we do.
Yeah.
Seems right.
And maybe I'll blend this with my prediction of 5th. Maybe it is the case that we go away and that's where we sort of galvanize ourselves and then we go home and lose or something like that if I'm predicting just the second round. So but to your point, it's a bit of a crapshoot.
Yeah. Well, and maybe it's something about, I don't know, there's potentially more momentum behind the underdog story, and the mental fortitude feels a little easier when you're an underdog. I don't know. I mean, I'm completely making this up. I have not played sport at this level. So, all right, moving right along. How many goals will the Riverhounds scored in all competitions? This was really interesting. And again, this is where it gets a little tricky because how many goals did we score last year? I looked it up, and according to what I found, was 55 goals last year, and we were all over the place. Mike, you thought we were going to score 36 goals this year, which is quite a bit lower. There's 34 games in the regular season. And then both Steve and Kev thought 42 goals. I was just like shooting for the stars. I'm like, we are scoring 70 goals this season, which that feels like great. Like that's crazy fun times.
You
right?
basically doubled what I predicted. So I think we need to unpack that a little bit.
Well, I think I don't know what I was thinking. I was just like, I don't. Well, no. I'll tell you what I was thinking.
You can be optimistic. That's fine.
Well, yeah. I was like, there's 34 games. I think we score like about 2 a game, plus or minus. So okay, let's go with let's round it to 70. Where
I
were
want to
you
know
thinking?
who you think are going to score all those goals.
These magical people that I know nothing about. That's who are going to score these goals.
I love it. I hope you are right.
Great. Mike, you a little bit of a downer here.
Well, listen, I mean, Dequa got to 20 last year, and we had a lot of conversations about how we were concerned that if it wasn't Dequa putting in the way, where were the goals coming from? And really, other than Deanny and I'm probably butchering his name, Deanny and Sterling, like they're both coming in, but otherwise it's kind of the same attacking crew that we had last year. So unless those guys are bringing some magic, I'm anticipating some kind of drop off. Again, could be completely wrong. I don't know. I can't remember if you have sort of who do we think? Yeah, okay, we do have top score, so I will wait on that.
We'll wait.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why. You had one guy sort of carrying the load, and we just couldn't make it up without him. Maybe it's the case without him there. We have more people in attack, which would be great. We had talked about that. That's what we wanted to see. So who knows?
Yeah. Steve, what do you think? 42 goals. You're a little less than last year.
Because I think that for me, that seems realistic. I mean, looking at who all scored goals last year, Eddie Kizza, Robbie Mertz, those are the two guys that are still here in the top 10. Which means like
and
like there are 8 players. Okay, sure. A couple of those guys. Oh no, Osamano, right? Scored 1, right? Like we're talking about between those few players, at least in the regular season, we can throw in Griffin's Open Cup goal. But you're talking about 6, 7, 8 goals, right? Like even if those guys are slightly better on average and they get 10, I just feel like we have to, and at the time, and this goes against one of my other predictions because who isn't even a signed player and was just a trialist. I was like, I don't know. I got to pick a guy that I don't think is on the roster for goal scorer. But I just, where are they coming from? I don't know. I think we're not going to have someone that is chasing the league lead this year, but I think we're going to be back to that. We've got a few guys that are scoring 6, 7, 8 goals, and it's coming from weird places on the field at times. And not that that wasn't the case last year. I mean, our second highest scorer was a center back. But just don't see us having even two guys that are putting in 10, 12, 15 goals this year.
Yeah.
So got to go low.
We're reaching for the sky here. I'm being aspirational. I will say.
I do want to say
I tried to
put my predictions like to make them kind of fit with what the other things I was saying were, right? Like I don't think a team that's scoring 42 goals is going to be a second place team, right? But I also don't think a team that some of my other predictions it's outlandish for them to have only 42 goals. So like in terms of points and whatnot.
Steve, there is no rationale. You just pick an answer.
I know, but
you don't have
no,
to
I had to make it make sense to
just
me.
Pick something. Nah, we don't need that. And
I based everything off of the fourth place and 42 goals. And then I was like, how do I make this work?
Again, you thought way more into it than I did. Okay. And then on the flip side of that, how many will we allow in all competitions? So last year we allowed 29 goals in the regular season, 3 goals in the Open Cup, and the only goal in the playoffs for a total of 33 goals. And so our guesses were a little all over the place. Let's see. Liz thought the Riverhounds are going to allow 33 goals again. Steve, 35. Mike, 40. Kev, 22 goals. So Kev is like, our defense is going to be stronger. I mean, I said 25. So Kev and I are right there. And then Justin said we're going to allow 54 goals. So really high on the other end. But he also thought we were going to score 72. So, it's going to be crazy fun times all season long. So it seems, Steve and Mike, you're both approximately around where we were this past season. And it sounds like in alignment with your overarching thoughts. Any additional thoughts you have about our defense and goalkeeping situation?
I mean, I kind of feel like we have no choice but to have a good defense. If I'm predicting that we're only going to get like 40 some goals, like the only way that we're going anywhere is if our defense is solid. So that's kind of my thought process there is if we're leaking goals and we can't score them, then just like there goes the season. So yep. I got to hope in this case.
Open prayers.
And my hope is a little more than hope. It's in Bob we trust to organize a defense. I mean, he obviously felt comfortable not pushing more money to keep guys that were going out the door when he's keeping Hogan, Osamanu, and DeShields. And he obviously liked what he saw with Osamanu and DeShields last year enough that he didn't feel the need to panic spend on some of those guys. I mean, we knew Joe Farrell was gone real early. Took a long time before we found out that Dos Santos went to Charleston. But I mean, do I think that we are as good of a defense? No, but I also really like the fact that we've got a keeper who has a lot more experience. And I think he's going to make the defenders in front of him better than Waite was able to in just his second professional season. And that's not a knock on Waite at all. It's just purely recognizing the experience that comes with more playing time and more years.
Yeah. And look, it looks like, Bob's solution to defense is just going to be put Danny Griffin as a center back and, play Tommy V and it'll be great. And we'll be good. So,
yeah. I mean, that sounds great. All right, let's keep moving here because we still have a bunch of questions to get through. We could be here all night.
I'm slowing us down. This is no good. This is what happens when I don't host. I just drag it out.
Sunshiny thoughts. All right. How far will the Riverhounds progress in the Open Cup? And this is where Mike Snark comes in. What Open Cup?
Well, listen. At the time, it was a fair question, and it still kind of is. Like, the way that the Open Cup in the news that we got recently about, only so many MLS teams, and then there's certain USL teams that are going to enter the same time as the MLS teams. It's all a bit of a crap show. So
yeah.
Well, so Mike did not guess. He just guessed. So Mike, I have nothing to say. I thought we would make it to the quarterfinals. We have fourth
We
round from
We also
Steve.
have more calls for kicking me off the show. So
Sounds great. You're not allowed to leave, actually. This is your purgatory to stay here forever.
Cool.
I said we would make it to the quarterfinals again. Let's see, fourth round from Steve, 3 games from Liz, third round from Kev, and Justin said 2 rounds. So Justin has no faith in our ability to beat, I don't know, less quality teams perhaps than in previous years. I don't know. My thought is kind of, I mean, we don't have time. We do not have time for me to get into how I feel about the whole Open Cup situation and the farce that exists in the US at the moment. But I do think, okay, fine. We get to play the games we get in front of us, right?
Mhm.
Like the Riverhounds do not have the power to kind of change the structure of US soccer, although, you know, if anyone could do it, maybe it's Bob Lilly could, you know, put US soccer in its place. Maybe not. But I don't know. I think we'll kind of see a continued success like we did last season. I think, you know, if maybe we do well and that success has an asterisk beside it because the Open Cup is different from what it has been. But I don't know. I think I have hope and I don't know. I'm still going to enjoy it, right? I think it's still a cool thing. And I personally feel that it is a poor reflection on the MLS teams and not on the lower division teams.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't reflect poorly on us, right? It reflects poorly on them because they've made poor life choices. You're making poor life choices.
And the Federation.
Yeah. Poor life choices, Federation.
Yeah. I almost feel like because of everything that happened, that the pendulum could actually swing the other way, and you're going to have the fans be even more behind the tournament this year and make it all the more exciting. I don't know if that'll hold in Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh fans, I still don't have a good gauge on how many even know what the Open Cup is or even care about the Open Cup at this point beyond we beat Columbus at home last year. That was great, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So I think nationally there does seem to be this movement of supporters that are saying we're sick of this, which might put all the more emphasis on get out and support the Open Cup. Go, even if it's a smaller team and it's not your regular team that you follow, go follow them just because it's the Open Cup. We'll see. That could be interesting.
I would love to see that. Go ahead, Steve.
So I've got kind of 2 thoughts. As you were reading all of our answers, I noticed you were reading as if we all answered maybe very different ways. And so I'm wondering how different some of those answers are. Are the quarterfinals different than the 4th round or going 2 rounds in the cup? I don't know, right? And I don't think we know because we have no idea how it's going to be structured this year, right? But then the other thing, you just made me think of a couple things, Mike. Just how some fan bases, even MLS, are really pushing back. But then, go support other teams. Go support Steel City FC, who is another Pittsburgh soccer club in the Open Cup this year, right? And I want to see those types of things. I want to see KDKA. I want to see other soccer and sports coverage in the city making a big deal about that. That look, we've got a professional team and we've got an amateur team or a semi-pro team in this tournament, and it's the oldest tournament. Let's go, guys! Make it a big deal. Make people know.
Yeah, I love that, and I love Casey's comment as well that having 2 local teams in the Open Cup, I think, just raises the bar for Pittsburgh, right? I think there's something to be said about that, and I love it. I love that we get to celebrate that, and let's go Pittsburgh. All right, how many games will the Riverhounds lose at home? Last year, according to my thing, which I was a little surprised by this, we lost 2 games at home last year, which is, that's for Highmark, for real, right? So, let's see. Kev thought we would only lose 1. Justin thought 2. Steve and I thought 3. Mike thought 4, and Liz also thought 4. So, kind of in the same ballpark there. Losing only 2 games at home is quite amazing. And I think, again, I think this goes back to the defense and also the undying and ongoing love from the Steel Army. But I think there's something to be said about that. And so, yeah. Any observations, Mike or Steve, that you have about Fort Highmark and not losing at home?
It's funny because as we mentioned, I can't remember what I put down for any of these, but as I was looking back over them, I was like, I think 4 is a good number. So when you said that I picked 4, like this is one time I actually matched up. 2 is really, really good. And so like, I think even if it was 4, I'd be like, that's a really, really good season. Like we lose a quarter of our games at home, but like the rest we're doing good. That sets us up pretty well. And I think that's kind of in line with the rest of my predictions in terms of how many goals we're letting in, how many goals we're scoring. That'd be a good year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I look at it in terms of historic seasons. 19, we didn't lose any games at home. We've lost 2 games at home in 2 separate seasons under Bob Lilly. Twice we've lost 3 games at home, and 1 season we lost 4 games at home. I think we're closer to that lower end again this year. But I don't think that means it's all doom and gloom, right? I think we're going to have a lot more close games again, and we're going to see a lot more of that Lilly special, that 1-0 score line more frequently. And I think it's going to be in the Hounds' favor, both home and away. But so I just think it's a stretch to go far beyond that. Again, don't we trust Bob? Even when we don't want to, like it doesn't feel like I should trust him right now. But I'm like, but the record speaks for itself, right? Like I've doubted him in the past, and look what's happened.
Steve,
I doubted him a lot last year.
Here's the deal, Steve. We don't necessarily make evidence-informed decisions. Our feelings are not always influenced by history, right? It's based on how we're feeling.
Right. But my feelings change as we get to the end of the season. Like, that was better than I thought.
Mike.
No. It just made me think. This is totally off topic. There's this thing that I think it started in Toyota. I think it's called the Andon cord. So the idea is that they have production lines at Toyota where as people are working on stuff, if any of the employees anybody sees something that they don't agree with or something wrong, they have a cord that they can pull and it completely shuts down production. And then everybody sort of addresses like, okay, that's a problem. Over the past few years, we've gone back and forth of like, in Bob we trust. And then it's like, what is he doing? And I feel like, do we need some metric to now measure like when we're doubting Bob and it's okay to doubt Bob? So like we could say that we had like 3 official like doubt Bobs last year or whatever it may be. Like, when do we get to a point where we're like, okay, this is official, like pull the cord, let's have a conversation about doubting Bob? Or is it just like, it's okay, like he's figuring it out, we're not in like full crisis mode, like stop the engine kind of thing? So something to think about.
All right.
To fill the show. I know I'm off track. Keep going.
I'm trying to think of like what we would even. There's some homework for someone.
Yes.
Someone can tell us what are our like if we have 3 doubt Bobs. Yeah, what are like the 3 things that would have to happen after those 3 things happened? Then we're allowed to say.
But that's the fun is I think. Well, yeah. First of all, we'd have to set a limit. Like how many doubt Bobs are we allowed per year? And then like anybody can pull it. So if Justin comes on the show and is like, I'm done, like pull it. And then we're like, all right, let's hear why Justin's done and he's pulling it. And then we have to talk about it.
Maybe we each get 1. So there's 6. Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
Let's keep moving here. Because we still have lots of fun things to talk about. Okay. What will the Riverhounds' final USL record be? And so I have wins first, then draws, then losses. I know it's reported elsewhere. Both Liz and I thought we would get. Oh, and last year we had 19 wins, 10 draws, 5 losses. Jumping the lily pad there, Josh. Liz and I both thought we would get more wins than we did last year. So we each thought, Liz and I both thought we would get to 20 wins. Everyone else had less than that. So Mike had 15 wins, Steve 14, Kev 16, Justin 17. So a bit of a departure. And then there'll be 34 matches in regular season, regular play this year. Draws ranging from 8, 7, 14. Kev thinks we're having 14 draws. Good grief. Steve was there with 13. And then for losses, Mike thinks we're going to lose 11 games this season. And I don't know if you just predicted the wins and the draws, and then you were like, well, I have to equal it out to 34, and that's how I get to 11 losses there,
It was
Mike?
very much doing math to make up my points.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great work. Man, oh man.
Listen, if my scores didn't add up to the points, you absolutely would have called me out on this. So
I did not do the math.
Oh,
You
okay.
think I did the math? I
Yes, I did think you would do the math.
Well, I didn't. I just guessed that we would have 70 points this season, and somehow it would magically work itself out. There's some hand waving there. Last year we got 67 points. Again, these are crazy fun times, right? Anyway. And later, my last question for this section is how many draws will the Riverhounds have? And Justin reminded me, you're asking the same question twice. And I was like, no, you could answer differently if you wanted. But that's beside the point. I'm pretty sure I did answer the same. Anyway, okay, let's talk about points here. I'm a little bit all over the place. Last year we got 67 points, winning the Players' Shield. I was the only one who predicted we would get more points this season. I thought we would get 70 points this season. Mike thought 53, Steve 55, Liz 67, Kev 62, and Justin 61. The two of you of our Mongols group are the lowest by, I would say a significant amount.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to add about your sadness and doubt of our beloved team that you haven't already said?
55 points is usually good enough to get fourth place.
Honestly, that's how I kind of played it too. I was like, I think we're going to get fifth. Like, this is right around the ballpark. So that's kind of what I was shooting for. Look, I can't go from being like all doom and gloom to like, we're going to win it all. This is like baby steps. So you're getting just like slightly less pessimistic Mike this season.
This feels about the same pessimistic Mike from what I remember. Steve?
Yeah, no, I mean,
that's how you pick.
To get those 4 sushi dinners with the Hounds in fourth place, what do the Hounds need to do? This is what they need to do. This is the math.
I see. It's not out of a love for your team. It's out of a love for sushi, Steve. I get it. I can respect that.
And then Mark and I'll go and talk about the Hounds. Yeah.
If you're going to pull the cord, you have to be so committed that you owe Steve a sushi dinner. So if you're willing to buy Steve a sushi dinner, then you can pull the cord.
I'm game.
Yeah.
But if I pull the cord, I got to buy all of you sushi.
That's right. Yeah.
I can make that deal.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Let's dig into some players. Now, I will say that the frustrating thing, at least for me, as I was writing this and I was thinking about this, and Mike, you kind of alluded to this, when it comes to EPL teams, when the season starts, you tend to have a pretty solid idea of who are the players who will be on the roster for this season. The USL is not like that, and I embedded into the survey, so when folks take it, you can do this. You can look at this as well. I have Shoes preseason tracker, which I think is likely the most accurate place that you are going to find who is on the Riverhounds roster at the moment. So just kind of with that caveat, who do we think is going to be the Riverhounds top scorer? I will say that Liz, Kev, and myself all thought Kizza. Justin thought Sterling. Why don't I have Josh's one here?
I bet you
anywhere?
Josh is Sterling too.
I bet Josh didn't do it.
Oh,
I don't think Josh did it. Oh my God. Josh. Okay, we'll get Josh to do it and we'll share his responses. Okay, wow. I'm like losing my mind. Here we are. Okay. So Josh definitely thinks Sterling. Justin thought Sterling as well. Nagelstand is for Steve, and Mike, you weren't sure. Josh says, my dog ate my homework. Josh, I'm pretty sure you don't have a dog. So that's a bad. Okay. Oh, ammo ate Josh's homework. Okay. top scorer, thoughts. We thought Kizza overall.
I don't know. I don't know. I would not be surprised if our top scorer was like Mertz this year. Like not a forward. I get what everybody's saying about Sterling. I've yet to see Sterling myself, so I'm not going to go out on that limb. I trust that what everyone's seeing is great, and I trust the fact that he lit it up in League One and he has the potential to light it up here. I'm cool with that, but there have been cases where we've seen Mertz do well in an advanced position. If he can stay healthy all season, I just wouldn't be surprised if we adopt some kind of system that just isn't reliant on a single person up front. And so, like Steve said, you have a bunch of guys that are at like 7, 8, 9 goals, and Mertz just happens to be the one that's leading the pack. Now, I guess the one thing that he has going against him, at least from the preseason, is it seems like Mertz has been taking corners. So he's not going to be involved in sort of set pieces in that regard, unless he's trying to curl them into the net, which, go for it, man. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Steve?
I'm laughing to myself because the absurd part of the sushi bet is that Mertz is the team's leading scorer with 14 goals.
Oh my God.
And I get a lot more sushi dinners if that comes true.
Wow.
So I don't think that was going to happen. No, I mean,
the economy.
Yeah. I think that, I'm looking at who's there, who's in camp. I don't know, right? Like, I don't think it's going to be Eddie. I don't think Eddie's going to play the position where he's going to be the focus of the attack. I think it's going to be one of these other guys. And so let's go for the other guy that I didn't think anybody was going to pick, because why not? He still hasn't been signed. Maybe he hasn't, just hasn't been announced. But let's see.
I was going to say something else real quick that we discovered right before we went on air, because the Hounds did post the returning players on their roster sheet on their website. They didn't post the new guys yet. They're still listing Langston Blackstock as a forward. So, like, is this a case where Lily's going to take him from being a wingback and try to play him at forward? Is there some like shenanigans we're going to see? I don't think we've seen it all this preseason, but like, who knows?
Never say never.
Right.
All right. We had unanimous vote for who would play the most minutes for the Riverhounds in all competitions.
Was it Griffin?
Danny Griffin. Yeah. Okay. Not sure there's too much to talk about there. Ordonez, I can't talk. It's too late for me this evening. Had the most minutes last year for the Riverhounds. And so we here at Mongols think it's going to be Danny Griffin this year. So I guess we'll see how that plays out.
I think it would have been Danny last year, except he missed the first few games playing for Nashville's affiliate team. So
yeah, and it was interesting because I was pulling this together for our conversation today, and completely missing that Josh did not fill this out. This is bonkers to me. It makes me so sad we're missing Josh's predictions. We'll get those later. I just remember. Do you remember the first game that Danny came back, and when he stepped onto the field, and it just felt so different. I don't know. I have high expectations, man.
We had a conversation last season. It was in the off season where I think we were in one of those moments of like, do we doubt Bob or not? And the argument was like, well, Bob knows what he was doing last year, and like, look how it turned out. And I remember digging into the numbers. I'll have to pull them up again. And I agree, like Bob knows what he's doing, but I also feel like there was some level of luck, because if you look at our record, the first however many games without Danny, and then you look at that same number of games with Danny, it is a substantial difference. And so Griffin is a very important part of this team and the team's success.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So the next question that we had, who will be the breakout player for the Riverhounds? And so the way I defined breakout player was someone newish who has an extraordinary season. I will say, why don't we do it this way? Who do you think Kev put for breakout star? You get one guess.
I would guess that Kevin would say Kizza.
No, who was the player last season? All right.
Oh,
so it's
Etu.
this time. Yes, there we
Junior.
go. Thank you.
That doesn't. Okay, whatever.
I said new.
I don't think Etu can be a breakout player.
Yeah,
he played a ton last year.
Yeah,
And if he didn't get hurt, like if he didn't break his arm, he
I
would
did
have.
not have a clear definition. So I think like this year, last year, we were kind of all over the place. Sterling, which I think perhaps is what Justin said, and I think perhaps Josh would feel that way. I think these are the kind of things that I think make it really hard in the USL, especially when you have players who, well, first of all, we don't see the roster has not been finalized, so there are like this like border players. Will they be signed? Won't they? If they are signed, how many minutes will they get? But also, we haven't seen these players like coming up through, for example, in the EPL, like coming up through the championship or playing with some of these clubs. And so, especially when we have folks who are playing in college, I mean, I'm not spending a lot of time watching, college soccer here in the US at all. And sometimes I'll, put on a game, but very rarely. So I think it's really hard to know, like, who are these young players, and perhaps this is the example, like this is the time when we say, okay, and Bob, we trust that he's seeing something, and hopefully that will pull through for us.
And I mean, go ahead.
Yeah. Osamenu?
Oh, Alal, yeah. I think Alal's going to have a great defensive season. Yeah. Okay. Good.
And I think one of the other things we talked about in the offseason too was how difficult it is to find college players that are going to contribute immediately. And we've had a little bit of luck in, once again, Danny Griffin, Tommy V came in and sort of made an impact right away when he came in. But for the most part, we've had more misses than hits. And so I think there was some concern in the offseason when it was like, we're returning a bunch of players and then we're going to get a whole bunch of college guys. Like, is that going to cut it? That's not what we got this year. But to your point, it's very hard to scout players from other leagues or the college system. You just kind of have to trust that they look good in the combine and then see what Bob does with them, because more often than not, we'll keep them for a year or two and then they go off and get big bucks somewhere else. So I guess, Bob we trust.
Yeah. All right. Two more Riverhounds oriented, and then we have two podcast oriented questions, which will be so much fun. Okay, so who will have the most assists? Let's see. Myself, Mike, Steve, Kev. No, take that back. Myself, Mike, Steve, and Justin all said Kenny. Both Liz and Kevin thought Mertz would have the most assists. So we feel like Kenny's still got it in him.
I think it depends on where Kenny's playing. And I get the sense that we may be pushing him even further up the field this year, just because if we're seeing signs of Danny Griffin dropping back, is it Walty that we brought in that was from Pitt? He's playing sort of a holding midfielder type role. If you have the two of them together, then like the only other place on the field for Forbes is going to be further up the pitch. So, I think that Robbie's a good shout, though. I think either one of them could have the most assists. It's probably going to come down to one of those two. And maybe you give it to Robbie because of the set pieces, like if he's taking corners, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Well, in that transition, Steve, what do you want to add?
Well, to respond to that, I feel like last year might have been the best year in terms of set piece goals off of some of our defenders' heads. No, a couple seasons ago, I remember be like, oh man, what the heck, Kenny? What happened to you, right? And then, I mean, the last half of that season and all last season, I mean, lit it up. And I'm like, again, why do I doubt Kenny until he actually can't keep playing, right? He's made crazy adjustments, I think, to deal with the impact of getting a little bit older on his play style. And he's done it really well. And in talking to him last year, I forget if it was me talking to him, if it was you talking to him. I just remember him saying at some point, like every year, his goal from Bob is to get a little bit better in one area. And that's how he approaches his job. I need to be better at this than I was last year. And I think that serves him well, no matter what age he is, as long as he's still able to be on the field.
Yeah. In that same vein, who will be the seasoned player to let us down? I did not have this from last year because, again, I was trying to think about it, trying to brainstorm with Justin, and we kind of blacked out last year after the horrid loss. Go ahead, Mike.
Junior Etu, just to like rub the salt in Kevin's wound. No, I think he's
Oh,
gonna
he's
have a
not
good
here.
year.
Yeah.
I think he'll probably have he'll have a better season as long as he stays healthy. I
Yeah.
think he's another special player. So
I think so. Yeah. So, Mike, you and I both thought Robbie Mertz would let us down. Steve thought Kizza, and Kev and Justin thought Kenny. Liz did not respond, chose not to respond to this question, which is fine, her prerogative. But yeah, I don't know. I think there are, at least for Robbie, I think there were a couple games last year, and especially after he came back from, where was he? Atlanta. It took a little bit, and I was like, oh, what's happening here? But I want to be wrong, frankly, on this one. I do want to be wrong. I don't want, to be let down, and I want to see all our players be successful in this area. Any thoughts?
I mean, I agree on. I think the only reason why I said Robbie was just health. I think last year he had some injuries and it sort of delayed, and then once he was off, it was tough to get back in. And so, again, you're just kind of like closing your eyes and throwing a dart at the wall and seeing who you hit. So I could totally see, that prediction being wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Steve.
No.
What'd you want to add? Nothing? Okay.
I can tell you
All
why
right.
I answered what I did, but I don't care.
Okay. We'll take good audio here. All right. So the last two questions, and I know we're going a little longer. This is really fun. I'm enjoying it mostly because I wrote it and I'm in control. So I'm never going to let you go. Just kidding. Okay. So the final two questions are podcast and Mongols adjacent related. So last year, the question is, how many episodes, regular shows, full 90, player interviews, etc., will Mongols publish this season? And you better believe that last night I went through Apple Podcasts and I counted every single one. So unless it was posted elsewhere and didn't get on Apple Podcasts, because that's where I looked. And last year we had 54 things, which that is impressive. I will just say, right? Like, it is a team that makes this work, and Mike leads us so faithfully and rocks it out. But definitely a team effort. So I thought 54 shows, Steve 43, Liz 36, Kev 35, Justin 33, and then Mike guessed 70. 70
Oh,
shows.
did I? I thought you were
Yes.
going the other way. Wow. Okay. Yeah, why not? Listen, look, I trust you guys more than I trust myself. I think it's expected. Well, think about it this way. Look, how many games are there in a season? 34?
That's right.
Okay, so you figure we do one every week regardless. Then if you factor in half of those games, there's also a full 90, most likely. So right there, you're at what, 50 some? And then maybe you factor in anything in the off season, that gets us there. And I wasn't even counting, like, we should count, Steve, whenever you do interviews and we just like put them up on YouTube and stuff, whether it's post game or it's middle of the
I
week.
did not count those.
Like, yeah, you're probably pushing closer to 80, 90 pieces of content that get out there.
Yeah, I probably did 12 or so of those last year.
Yeah. So,
and it's all for the
take
love.
Take that, Laura Ellen.
I did it.
Don't doubt me.
Wait, where's the one? Kick him off. Okay. and then the final question that I put, will Laura Ellen ever meet Kevin? That was my final question. And it went on a scale of 1, which is never, to I think 4 or 5, which is definitely. Everyone else guessed a 1. I guessed a 4 and Kev guessed a 3. So I'm going with it.
It's because Kevin is sadistic and just wanted to keep you
Someday I'm
hoping.
going to drive my butt or fly my butt to Knoxville, and I'm just going to show up at Kevin's house.
That's why Kevin said 3.
And I'm going to come right on home.
He understands Laura Ellen's effort to get there.
And then all of you owe me sushi.
Listen, I will say this, and I might have some control here. I might not. We will see. there was a number of things going on with the family where we weren't necessarily going to get together this summer. Now that has changed. It's not like personal or interpersonal. We're all good with each other. It was just something else. And the dates are yet to be determined. So if I can influence the dates at all so that he just happens to be here when there's a home game, then like there's potential. But I don't know how much sway I'm going to have over that.
So the Sparks
Or I'll just
family
fly my butt to
reunion
Knoxville. It's fine.
Yeah.
on a Hounds game. Yeah.
Well, he'd be like, it'd have to be like in for a long weekend. And then like, cause okay, my mom was like, oh, maybe we'll get like a place at Deep Creek. Deep Creek's like 2 hours away from like Highmark. So we could justify being like, y'all stay at Deep Creek. We're going to drive up for a game and then drive back down or whatever.
Mhm.
So
you're saying I'm going to Deep Creek and then coming? No,
I mean, listen,
not there crazy.
You do you, yeah.
No, I'd love to hang out with Susan for a couple days. It'd be great.
Yeah.
We could talk about the goats she's getting and how she's gonna continue her education. It's
Stop
fine.
it.
Okay. So we went through a whole bunch of questions. Thank you so much to everyone except for Josh, who did not reply, and I did not realize that until halfway through, but it's really fine. How are you feeling, Mike, Steve? Does this make you feel any better, any worse? Yeah, it makes me feel good. I think it is slowly getting me into, okay, this is real. This is happening. We are starting on Saturday. Here we go. I think it's ramping me up, even though my guesses are kind of all over the place. Mike, how is this making you feel?
I think same. I don't know if I feel any better or worse, but I am more excited about the season starting. Like I found myself this morning, opening up, I have little widgets on my phone, my little FOTMob widget, and making sure I have it set up for the Hounds. So it tells me when the next game is, and I have like the quick link to get there. And I found myself frustrated because I couldn't figure out how to watch the game this weekend because they haven't announced that yet. And so like I'm getting into the like fan mode of being a Hounds fan again. So it's good. And hearing some of the stuff that's been floating around the city about stadium expansion, and like Jeff's throwing out numbers like 15,000, which is kind of crazy. I'm looking forward to just getting back onto Highmark and talking to some people and having a good time. And I know the kids are like, they're itching to get back down in the Paul Child stands. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get things started for sure.
Steve, how are you feeling?
I think this was a ton of fun, right? And so it makes me more excited for the season, because one of the things that I think is so fun for me about the Riverhounds is not just the things with the team, but it's the absolutely wild takes that we can give each other a hard time about, right? Like it's the having fun doing this together, laughing at each other, joking with each other, but just actually enjoying the process of talking with each other and talking about the Hounds with each other. And so that's okay, yeah.
No, Steve, all the warm fuzzies. I love
I do.
it.
I have warm fuzzies.
All right. Well, this weekend we have a game 4 p.m. against New Mexico. So the Riverhounds the team is flying out to New Mexico. As Mike alluded to, maybe it's on ESPN Plus. I don't know. Just buy all the streaming services, all of them, and then just start flipping around, or just start yelling, or go to the watch party, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Well, that's true. Yes, there will be the watch party at Bulldog with the Steel Army. I think I have to, don't check my math on this, but New Mexico's home, I want to say, is gold. So we might start on the road with our bridge kits and not our gold away kits. Maybe not. We shall see. But
well, we'll see how they look on TV. That was one of the things.
Yep.
Yes, and Liz says, "Oh, is it prediction time?" And guess what? I decided we're doing it. We're doing it, and I will figure it out later. Okay, Josh guesses 2-0 Hounds. Mike, what is your prediction for our first game of the season, the 2024 season, on Saturday?
I will say 1-1 draw, and I'll be happy with it.
All right. Mike says 1-1. Steve, what's your guess?
I got a 0-0.
Steve is boring with 0-0. Josh, says 2-0. I am taking my time and writing these down. Liz also says 2-0. And I say 2-1 Hounds. Because here we go. Because why not? All right. And just a reminder to everyone, we will put the link for our prediction survey. It will not take you as long as it took you to listen to this podcast to fill out the survey.
What if it did?
What if it did? I mean, props to you. So we will put out the link to that form on, we'll put it on the YouTubes, and Mike can distribute it elsewhere. So you can definitely play along with us. I guess make sure to send your predictions in. I don't know. We're just playing this by ear, and we'll see how it goes. You can spam us with your predictions, and we'll go from there. This was really fun. Mike, thanks for letting me take over for the show. Anything else, Mike, Steve, that you want to add before we kick off the 2024 season? Can you believe it?
You did great, Laura Ellen. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Go Hounds.
All right. Go Hounds. Be sure to go to the watch party and support with the Steel Army. And like I said, get all the subscription services if you're not in the area or can't go to the watch party, and just watch it everywhere. And we will see you next week. Let's go Hounds. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.